welcome back to PA Chalk Up. I'm your host Manny, and today marks the 1 year anniversary of PA Chalk Up. So I thought, why not take it to where we started with Brandon Chu? How we doing?
Good, man. Thank you for having me back on. And happy 1 year anniversary.
Thank you. No, I felt fair that the way I started is the way I'm celebrating my first year doing this, and you're probably one that gave me the most support with it as well, and just told me to just go send it. So yeah, excited to have
Dude,
you back on and just speak.
yeah, no, 100%. I think it would be cool to kind of see now we're a year out of schooling, essentially, a year into our careers and kind of getting to catch up on, what's, 1 year into our career after getting our feet wet a little bit, kind of hashing out what we think, how we've grown, the things we've learned, the things we've experienced. So yeah, thank you for having me back on, dude. I'm super excited. We'll have some fun with this.
Yeah,
Have
hundred
some fun
percent.
with
No,
it.
and you're absolutely right. It's like we are a year, just a year off our big first internship and
Yeah,
working
it's crazy, isn't it?
in
Like
the trenches. Yeah,
it feels so long ago, yet also just like yesterday. I don't know how to describe it. It
the thing that I always think about is like when we left UW, like so we were taking the same path, but then like we went different, but like we're still like we still contact and still speak and still hang out. So it's like it's awesome to just like know that we both started in the same place, but now we're like doing our own adventures and still like experiencing
uh,
life, but also going back and just really talking about what we're doing.
yeah, for the people that don't know me that are just tuning into this
I did
episode,
forget. Yes.
we totally forgot the intro part, but that's that's fine. Um,
if you want a proper introduction, episode one, it's beat you.
yeah, so my name is Brandon. I interned with Manny at the University of Washington with their football program, with the S&C staff there. That was two summers ago now. Damn, 2 summers
Yeah,
ago.
2 summers.
Yeah, it really does feel like yesterday. But now, I am working as a personal trainer in New York City. I have a lot of experience in strength and conditioning. Well, not a lot, but through internships. And I'm very much all about the. I come from the background of S&C, n- deep appreciation for the industry. Uh, but yeah, so right now, I'm working at a studio called the Live Method at in New York City. That's where I'm at.
As a strength coach, we deal a lot with Excel's, spreadsheets, and building out the best program that we can for our athletes. Although, when you have these large amount of spreadsheets and Excels and printables and packs that you need to hand out to your athletes, it can get a little bit overwhelming, especially with large amount of files. Mine's personally has crashed, deleted, and that to me is a big burden. That's why since starting my own business, I've went with TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr is an all-in-one programming software that has truly changed and leveled up the way I coach and the way I program for my athletes. With TeamBuildr, you can create customizable workouts, track your athletes' progress in real time, and even generate performance reports with just a few clicks. Athletes can also fill out their own workout data by using either the tablet or their smartphones in the weight room, which, most importantly, eliminates the paperwork that we all hate. This also gives your athletes accountability for their program and their progress as they are immersed within it. If you are interested in using TeamBuildr, head over to teambuildr.com and sign up using code PAChalkup. That's PACHALKUP to start your 30-day free trial. But like what we were saying, it's like we've taken different paths, but we're still able to hang out and still speak about their experience. And I think from recent conversations that we've had, you're very much on this like holistic approach to S&C, not just like sports in sports, but like giving it to a wider population as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the nature of personal training, I'm working with. I'm working with uh, gals getting ready for their wedding, moms to be that are getting ready for their first child, or maybe moms that already have 2 or 3 kids, or I have a 70-year-old client who wants to be on the front cover of Men's Health magazine as like the fittest 70-year-old. Um, I have a whole variety of different people with all different backgrounds and different contexts. No, it's not your traditional athlete. It's not your getting ready for competition. It's not a postseason, off season, full athletic development program. It's just working with everyday people. It's working with people that have 9 to 5s. It's working with people that have a lot of stressors in life outside of just the weight room and sports and all of those things. And for most of them, they honestly, it's taught me to appreciate life outside of just athletics and competition and performance. And you're 100% right. The holistic side of things, if anything, it has made me it's given me more of a 50,000 square or 50,000 foot view versus being very myopic in
Mm,
looking at just performance within like that funnel of performance, but taking a wider lens of, what is health, what is well-being, um, looking at things in the grand scheme versus just like, okay,
yeah,
you got to if you're not squatting 2 times body weight, Cindy, it's like you're not getting married. Like, we're not doing that.
yeah.
Like,
No, it's like it's important to know that side of the industry as well, and that's where I started was the general population, and it taught me it taught me first to be adaptable. Like you're not going to get the same case every single time that you walk in. Like you might have a mom of three, you might have someone that's doing for mostly aesthetics, you might have someone that's 70-year old and just wanting to stay active. So it's like your ability to overcome and adapt those situations and really figure out how to best program for those people, as well as then being able to switch onto the athlete side and just be very, this is the target, this is where we're going, this is what you need to do, let's fucking do it. In the general population, you can't just tell them to fucking do it. Like if they don't like you, that also takes a hit on you and your business.
dude, 100%. I think in the past year, some of the biggest, uh, I guess, differences I see between, or the biggest takeaways I've had that are different from strength and conditioning, my experiences in strength and conditioning and working with teams and athletes, versus working with general population, is exactly what you were just talking about, the problem solving aspect of things, because you're exposed to all different types of people and you're in this one-on-one setting in which, I can't just coach you and move on to the next
Mm.
athlete. um,
You have to care.
I you are your clients are literally paying for an hour of your attention, and so you have to be very engaged, and but not only engaged, but the problem solving. I think you have to be very. It, I can see why a lot of strength and conditioning coaches recommend people to start coaching personal training and then go into strength and conditioning, because the the individualization, the on the fly adapting things of like, hey, maybe I had rear foot elevated split squats written down in my program, but clearly the person in front of me is not ready for rear foot elevated split squats. Am I going to try to jam my square peg in this round hole? Or maybe they have some knee pain that day, or, oh,
They don't want to do it.
kids kids stayed up all last night, got 3 hours of sleep. Okay, now what? All right, we were supposed to max out today. How are you going to change things on the fly? How are you going to be adaptable? How are you going to be personable too, and still, allow these people to walk away feeling like, hey, yeah, that was definitely worth the money I
Mhm.
paid for that hour. And also, I feel supported. I feel better than I did when I first got in here.
100%. That's another side of it as well, is like the soft skills that you learn and you have to deal with people. Is like you're going to go in, if you just start like rah rah shouting at them, they're going to be like, yeah, be true as a no go. Manny is a no go. I don't like that. So they won't come. So you have to be like a little bit empathetic as well. Like they had 3 hours of sleep. Okay, we were supposed to max out, but actually let's completely change the program and let's do just a nice easy walk or a nice easy lift session, mobility session, whatever it is.
Yeah, 100%. One of my coworkers, when I first started working here, he said the best advice I can give you is to try and be a chameleon. Like you have to look at the person in front of you, um, and tailor your coaching to that person. If if they are up here, and for all the people that are just listening to the audio and this, like I'm waving my
Yes,
hand
all the way
above
up.
my head. Yeah, all the way up. If they're all the way up here, you got to meet them up there. If they're not there that day, uh if they are much more toned down, they are much more reserved. You have to meet them there too. I think I had there were definitely a couple instances where I'm very energetic and I'm very passionate about what I do. Um, but if you're someone new, completely new to the gym environment, to the weight room, never touched a weight before, it can be very intimidating. And so you know, at our facility, you take an elevator, and when the elevator door opens, you're in the facility. So, or you're in the studio. So it's like right when the elevator door opens, you see me and I'm your personal trainer, and all of a sudden I'm just like, oh my god, like you know, energy through the roof, and I'm like a puppy that's filled with life. And this is your first time stepping into your weight room. It can be kind of intimidating, it can be kind of off-putting. So I think, yeah, be a chameleon. I'll take it one more step further. Is something I've been thinking about and doing more is mirroring. Is just like whatever you're giving me, whatever the energy you are giving me, or whatever I'm just reflecting it back to you. And so then it helps me meet and match where my client is at. If my client is more soft spoken, I'll be more soft spoken. If more quiet, I'll be a little bit more quiet,
Mm.
so that I can create a more comfortable environment.
Do you then like try and bring them their energy back up if they're like in a low?
100%. I think, well, actually, one of my clients uh, gave me this piece of advice that has stuck with me since. To give some background, this client, he's the founder of his own company, and he's done very well for himself. And whenever this guy comes into the gym, he is always smiling. He is always exuding great energy. And when I check in with him, when he comes in and he's warming up, I'll say like, "Hey, how's it going?" And he's always like, he's just always like filled with life. The
Mm.
guy is 55 years old, so he's not young either. And um, one day he came in, and this was the first time I ever heard him say, "I'm tired." But yet he said, "I'm tired," with a smile on his face, and still just like, "I'm tired, but I'm good. But I'm good." I'm like, I asked him, I was like, how where does all this energy come from? And he just says, well, in my opinion, when you want other people, you need to create the environment that you want to live in, and you want to be around. And are when you uphold yourself to um, a high standard of positivity, of energy, of care, of passion, then people will be receptive to that, and then it'll bring other people's energy up as well. It's kind of like a lead from the front type
Mm.
of idea. And that kind of stuck with me. Now that doesn't mean that with every client I'm getting in their face and I'm trying to pump them up with life and energy, but it means that like for each client I'm going to try and lift them up. I'm going to try and um, do that for them, and speak in the ways in which it speaks to them, but try to be like my client for them, for that
Mm.
be a leader, essentially. Be a leader.
The way
um,
that this sort of reminds me, so I think it's the week. before this podcast, I had two psychologists on, and one of them mentioned that they've got like this flip switch mentality where it's kind of like what you're saying is like as soon as they are in a new environment that they need to be different for, in their head they like flip a switch and they leave everything else behind. They just go into that room or area like to be present, to be a little bit more for what the situation needs. And I think that's a really good way of looking at things as well. Is like you could be having a shitty day, but like if you walk into somewhere, like that doesn't need to follow you. You can then just deal with it as the day goes on and not take it out on your clients, on your athletes or your teammates or anyone else that's around you that day.
Yeah. I think going off of that, I've had a mentor mention to me this before, but it's like I really like that like flip switch analogy. More so, what if it was a dimmer? So
Mm,
then you're just adjusting gradually, throughout your day to again,
match the
um,
energy.
yeah, exactly. To match the energy, you can slowly bring it up, you can slowly bring it down, or like throughout a session. And I've had this too, where sometimes, like this morning, I think a client of mine came in, and we go through the usual assessment when she walks in of how are you doing, how are you feeling today, body energy wise, where are you at, and then from there, as we were warming up, she just seemed more closed off than usual. But then after, you know, we were warming up a little bit, she started to open up and she started to talk and again, like bubble up again.
Mm.
I mean, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. She probably just rolled out of bed. So, it makes sense. Like people aren't just going to be right off the bat, like, okay, I'm ready to, it might take a little bit. And that's totally fine. But it's, then I was kind of adjusting then the level in which I was talking to her. So when we started off, and I originally thought something was bothering her, and I didn't want to press about it. So I was just like, hey, I'm gonna let her. I'm I'm just gonna guide her through her warm up. I'm gonna give her some space, and then as she started, started making some more small talk, and then from there, based off of that, reading the energy, it seemed like, oh, she was okay now, almost like she's warmed up, not just physiologically for our session, but warmed up to
Deal with
to
it.
back. Yeah, exactly. To start talking, to be a little bit more bubbly, to a little bit more engaged, essentially.
100%. And like the thing is as well, you need to like know that exercise for different people can mean different things as well. Like when I was working in the general population side of things, I had this client who she was a social worker. So she dealt with like people on the sex registry and all that stuff. So she was dealing with quite different people, we'll say, but you can always tell how her day was by the way she'd walk in. Like if she'd had a decent day, she'd be come in bubbly, laughing, ripping into me. So like it would be like we'd know. If she came in and she was just off, we knew that no matter what, that session had to start with some type of pad work. Like just get the gloves, just get some pads, and she needs to hit something. She just needs to hit something, and then she'll be fine.
Yeah,
So it's also having that again, like soft skills to like know what your clients and athletes are going through, and sort of like what you were saying, like dim your energy and sort of match where they are.
you have to meet your clients where they're at. That's all it is. Meet your clients where you're at.
100%.
Meet your
What
clients
else
where
have you
they're at.
been doing this year?
I've in I would say I try to always narrow things down into like three big things. So, three big things I work on at a time. Oftentimes, I am very ADD and also very impatient with myself when it comes to what's the next thing I have to learn? What is the next thing I can do better? Where can I grow? What do I need to work on? I always need to have, I always need to fill my schedule. I always feel like I need to fill my schedule up with work.
That's something
Um,
that we were talking about before the podcast was starting. It was like
yeah,
work as hard as you can for the first couple of years, so then you can be a bit more flexible with your time.
yeah, yeah. Um, just working for a better future, right? But for me, the past year, my I'd say my big three things were, well, one, providing value to my clients. So that was my number one priority. Providing value to my clients. Number two, education. So continuing education, investing in continuing education, trying to apply all of the things that I'm learning. And then since we last talked, I think I've accumulated like 2 or 3 more certifications since we last spoke in the past year.
What were the qualifications? Again, I know some of them.
Well, I took a bunch of courses. So, well, I think the last time I was on, I was taking Matthew Ibrahim's course, Athletic Performance University. Shout out Matthew
Yes.
Ibrahim. Shout out Athletic Performance University. He's he's always been a mentor and always been really supportive along throughout my career. He has a course, Athletic Performance University, a great course for it's for young strength and conditioning coaches, talking about, you know, basically how to apply all of the sciences that you learned in school. And he does a good job of talking about, all the different topics of like prescribing exercises, programming, coaching, um, communication. So, uh, yeah, would recommend. So APU. Then from there, I took Ramsey Nijim's course, Applied Performance Coach Certification, APCC. That was also really good, diving into how to look at research. I need to go through that course again. There are a lot of takeaways. I think I was skimming through, but um, that course was really good in terms of helping you think critically about research, making sure that everything is research based, or research informed. Doesn't always have to be
Mm.
necessarily research based, but that's a different topic.
Something I've been speaking quite a lot about in the podcast is like in research, a lot of what happens is every variable is controlled as much as
Hmm.
possible. And when you're like what we were saying before, like your environment won't always be
Yeah,
controllable. Like you will have days that your athlete just doesn't want to be there or your client doesn't want to be there. So you can't rely on that set method because of the
yeah.
uncontrollable.
I think his course also, he goes into what he does at University of Kansas with their men's basketball team, taking you through from the assessment side of things, what to look at, what to consider in terms of athlete assessment, to the programming considerations, and then he covers all these different topics. So APCC was really good, especially if you're working with teams. I think working as a strength and conditioning coach in like the collegiate, even private sector too. Just to make you think about your processes a little bit more. And Ramsey's always providing resources, uh, and putting and he's very transparent with like his processes, which I appreciate because he's he's also a really good resource and really good coach. Um, so that was another one. I then took precision nutrition, their level one, uh, and then now I'm taking Prescript, Dr. Jordan Shallow's biomechanics course. And then between there, I've sprinkled in a couple different seminars that I've been to in person.
Mm.
I got to hear Boo Schexnayder speak. He's a strength and conditioning coach at LSU for a while. Worked with their track and field athletes. He's coached a lot of Olympians. And that was a hands-on seminar. That was really cool. Craig Liebenson. Um, he's a doc chiropractic doctor. Forgot, doctor of some sort. But he's big on um, uh, lifting, especially for like strength training, for longevity, especially for aging clients. How to look at movement again, like the full assessment, programming, exercise considerations, that whole process, but more so for general population. Rather than
What were some of your takeaways from each course that you did?
man, at this point, I feel like I've crammed in a lot of information to not a lot of time, that things start to blend together, and I'm not sure exactly what ideas I get from where, especially since, and this is why I think, I'm now realizing, if I could go back and do it all over again, is to take some more time in between certifications to actually,
Mm, let
well,
it sink
one,
in.
let it sink in, but two, to try to apply some of the stuff more. I'm not saying that everything that I learned I'll be able to apply within my setting, but at least a lot of the key concepts and takeaways, um, I think I could have done a better job of internalizing, and then
Mm.
trying to really think about, okay, in my within my setting, how can I use some of these ideas or concepts, or if I'm able to use it at all. Like, for example, Ramsey Nijam's course, um, there were a lot of topics that were covered that, like when we were looking at, I think one of the modules we had talked about was power development, or yeah, and we were looking at research for that. Like for me, with my general population clients, it's yes, yes, they should train power, but I'm not going to approach it the same way as I would if I were working with a men's
Yeah,
basketball,
no,
a
I feel
Division
it.
One men's basketball team, right? A bunch of 20-year-olds who have some training experience versus you know a gal in her 30s just wanting to look good for her wedding. Um, so the needs of power, yes, both populations need power, but what the actual power training looks like, I I keep it a lot more simple in terms of thought process when I work with my clients. It's just like, okay, can we jump? Can we skip? Can we do some locomotion, coordination? Can you move things faster? Okay, like I'm like, that probably checks the power box. Are we moving with intent? Okay, that probably checks the power box. And for most people, they're probably not strong enough to do a lot of, or they're not strong enough to do any fancy stuff anyways. So I try to keep it as simple as possible. Um,
I think that's the best way to be. As like programming doesn't need to be complex. Like the fundamentals are the fundamentals for a
yeah,
reason. Like do they squat? Do they hinge? Do they push? Do they pull? Is there some type of knee dominant move in there?
even even talking about Ramsey's course, APCC, and when Ramsey talks about his approach with his guys at KU, it's all of it. He makes it seem so simple. I know that's more complex than that. Everything is very informed. The decisions he makes is very informed, but on paper things are very simple in the sense of, you want to give athletes exercises that they can be successful at. You want to give them a chance for success. You assess athletes so that okay, where are your strengths, where are your weaknesses. Okay, in the off season we tackle your weaknesses. In the When we get closer to competition,
Hmm.
we we give you things that maximize more of your strengths, and we just maintain the weaknesses, maintain the floor, raise the ceiling, you know. And then in the off
Yeah,
season, then we raise the floor, right? And yeah, I think, yeah, even with pro athletes, it doesn't matter who you're working with. So there's nothing wrong with simple. Simple works. Simple allows you to cut out the fat in which, and all the junk that you really don't. Yeah, all the
the
fluff.
fluff.
Just what works. Um, and it allows you to be more effective with your time and your energy.
Hmm.
Yeah, you don't need to be.
Like
What were you gonna ask?
one of the biggest things I learned at UW was that by pairing exercises together, you can reduce significantly the amount of time you actually spend in the weight room. And like just the way that everything was laid out made it so that sessions ran smoother and more efficient. So like that's something that I really try and do now is like have everything organized so that as soon as we get there, everything just flows.
Yeah. The Another thing about working with general population and working primarily with women is everyone loves like circuits and feeling like they've gotten a good workout, and that's just a really easy way of making people feel like they're working really hard. Is okay, we're gonna pair. an upper body, a lower body, a core exercise. Boom, A block. Another upper body, lower body core exercise, B block. Make sure you have a push, you have a pull, you have a squat, you have a hinge. Oh my gosh. And you put those two blocks together, we're going 3 sets. They think it's circuit training. It's not circuit training, but they think it's like, oh my God, I'm doing so much work and I'm not taking much rest in between. This is great. But in your head, it's like, okay, so, you know, we're not competing in terms of demands because of how we
Mhm.
structured the session. They feel like they're getting some cardiovascular demand. They think it's a great workout, and then but you're still getting the most out of them in terms of the intensity of each set. And then it also comes down to how you coach, and then uh, how you coach everything too. I think is very important. But
Mhm.
yes, the structure, the way in which you structure your actual sessions, uh, yeah, you can if you only like I only have an hour with my clients, and if I were to just do one exercise at a time, yes, would quality of each exercise go up? Yeah, but we'd probably get through 3 or 4 exercises with my
Mhm.
clients. And not saying that there's you only really need to do 3 or 4 exercises in the training session, but like if I'm seeing you one time a week, I want to give you some more variety. And there's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with having some more variety. And like, what are we doing in our rest time anyways? We're just sitting and chatting. Sometimes I don't want to talk to you, so I'm
Yeah.
just going to give you more exercises so you're out of breath and we don't have to talk, if I don't have anything to talk to you about. So yeah, so that's another perk.
So your clients, if they've got 6 exercises in one set, you just don't want to talk.
Yeah, it's like if I really don't want to talk to you when I I'm putting in like 5 exercises. I'm giving you no break between exercises, and I'm only giving you like 30 seconds between each set that we're going through. That's when like, oh, Brandon doesn't want to talk today.
That's Brandon's dimmer is
Yeah,
all the way
that's
down.
that's a that's a hey, I'm explaining you all. I'm coaching you up, making sure you're good, and we ain't talking any more than we need. That's straight to business that day.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. That's sometimes good to do as well. Like what a couple of coaches have now talked about, like purposely giving their clients and athletes a hard task during their workout for the sheer effect of giving them something that's hard so that they have to battle themselves to get
Mm,
it done. And it builds that mentality, consistency, and like Ray Zingler put it the best is like, are you at the end of the day, are you going to turn back and turn the light off, or are you just going to walk away? And he wants his athletes to always turn back and turn that light
mhm.
off. Yes, it's across the other side of the room, and you're going to have to waste more time going there to then get it and come back. But he knows his athletes are always going to choose the harder things.
So, like, essentially, what this sounds like to me is the building the mental toughness side of things, or through training, through programming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm I'm a little bit on the fence about that personally, in the
How
sense
so?
of the meathead inside me. I love it, and I'm like, I love to push and to work hard and do
Do
the
the hard
hard
shit.
shit, right? And I think there's a lot of value in choosing to do the hard things, but I think we also need to recognize that hard is relative to the individual, and hard means different things to different people. And so, for example, if if I'm working with a veteran who has gone and seen combat, I'm not gonna tell him, okay, this open set where you're pushing to failure, this is what's gonna make you tough, and this is gonna make you mentally tough. Dude, if you've seen combat, if you've been to war, you've seen war. Like I have no business teaching you what mental toughness is. I have no business, So I think oftentimes,
I will add,
yeah,
I will add that this is for like high school
yeah,
athletes.
okay, yeah, no, and that's where I'm saying, like, I think it's yeah,
It's
it's
dependent.
relative to the
Yeah.
person, right? And even with say like a high school athlete too, I think, you know, if they have already a tough upbringing. I mean, I hear about I hear about great athletes all the time that, for example, coach well, not just shitty childhoods, but like say coach tells everyone get on the line. I'm not doing that, coach. But he's the best player on the team, and he doesn't want to
Mhm.
run conditioning. And yes, that's terrible leadership. That's yes, he's not being a good role model. But he's just saying like I don't see the point in it. Like why am I running myself down to the ground in conditioning? I'll just play harder in games, right? And so sometimes I think like our coaching ego can 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 blind us from, again, like what is the bigger picture, what is it that the person in front of me needs. And like yes, does doing hard things build like character? Yeah, to a certain extent I think so, but I think that's too myopic, it's too simplistic. I think there are much more, there's more to it.
How would you deal with that situation if you have athletes that you need to condition them to a certain extent to perform, but your star player doesn't want to do
Well,
it?
I think it goes back to, what are we here for and the purpose behind the conditioning. Because if it's punishment, if it's, hey,
Mm.
you missed a free throw, everyone on the line, that's different from, hey, we need to get you in shape so you can play to the fourth quarter.
I'll stand behind that because I don't really believe in punishments with exercise because then that has essentially diverse effect to what you want them to look at exercise as. So that I agree, but like if again if it was preseason, I'd make them get on the
I
line.
mean, yeah, no, that's what I mean, right? But it comes down to the way in which you've communicated to your athletes. I'm sure if I had a if I if my athlete didn't want if my star athlete didn't want to do conditioning, I'll just tell him straight up like, hey, listen, you're not going to be able to last a fourth quarter if you're out of shape. If you're already in shape, then any extra conditioning, you're just wasting your time anyways. So that's what I mean by it goes back to the context of the situation. If your athletes are are in shape, are conditioned, then then like there's why do any more conditioning? Why don't we work on the weaknesses of the group? But if the weakness of the group was
Buckets.
was their conditioning, then it's like, hey, listen, well, the reason why I'm going to need you to go through this shitty conditioning drill, and I know it's going to suck, and it's going to suck for 15 minutes, but it's because like we play for 15 minutes, and so I need you to be able to last for all 15 minutes.
Mhm.
If you want to be the best player at the start of the game and be the best player at the end of the game, this is what I'm going to need you to do, right? Doesn't matter how well you start, right? If you give me a piss poor performance in the second half of the game. So I think making that clear, making your intent clear, and having that helps also build buy-in from your athletes and having them understand and know what is the rhyme or reason why I'm doing this to begin with, because I think that's where the disconnect is a lot of times. I think if they know that, oh, this is going to make me better, then yeah. But if they just feel like they're wasting their energy, that's when they're going to you've lost their buy-in.
Mm. And I think the buy-in is so important, but at the same time, it's like it all comes from you. Like they actually need to know that you're there for them
Yeah,
too. And if you're giving them shitty work, they're probably not going to enjoy you or the program much.
100%. You always, even with my clients now, I try not to spend too much time on it, but I very much value the educational side of things in the sense of if there's a I try to explain to you exactly why we do things a certain way, why I am telling or cueing you in a certain way, so that I can get you to understand like what it is we are trying to target and what it is we are trying to get accomplished. Because I could just say like, okay, here are the exercises. We're doing it for 3 sets, we're doing it for 5 reps, and that's it, and let you go, and that's great. But then if you don't know what, like if we don't know for 5 reps we're trying to build strength, and intensity needs to be high in order to build strength, and if we don't know that and you just grab light dumbbells, then we're just wasting our time because we've gotten nothing out of 3 sets for 5 reps, you know. So I think the getting across the why behind the what is really important. but you don't need to break out into a full lecture. You don't need to give a
Mm,
full thesis on you know the science or anything like that, but
I feel you just
you just got to
background.
make it understandable and package it in a very concise,
Hmm.
deliberate way. Yeah, that
Informative,
speaks to
yeah.
your client.
I think one of the biggest things that coaches can get wrong in this industry is explaining it to our athletes or clients like we would each other, right? So if we're speaking, we can go super scientific into the workings of a specific method, right? Our athletes and clients don't really give a fuck,
Mhm.
right? So we could go and give them all the details, but at the same time, like they don't really care. They just need to know why and what it does.
Yeah, and that comes down to knowing who's in front of you that you're talking to, because you need to be able to speak to their goals and speak to their interests and why they're there in the first place. Like I have a couple clients, they have very general goals. Their goals are just to be they're already in pretty good shape. They're already pretty fit. They just want to resistance train and add that element into their lives. And for me, like they don't need to learn how to do a Turkish get up, but I'll coach them on how to do a Turkish get up. And when if they were to ever ask me why we do it, because I tell them this. They don't ask me why because I already tell them this up front. I just tell them we're doing this because it's badass. It's cool to be able to hold a 50-pound kettlebell over your head and be able to get up off the ground. It's badass. And they're like, and they light up and they're like, yeah, that was pretty badass. And it can be as simple as that. I don't have to go there. That doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh well, this research study and
A
the
reason.
shoulder stability. Like yes, we do get all of those things. Like we do get shoulder stability, we do get core, we do get hip mobility, and it's we get a lot of coordination um, behind it, just body awareness and stuff like that. But it's badass, and automatically
Hmm.
they're like, oh yeah, I'm sold. Let's do more badass things.
To piggyback on top of that, I did a conference in Italy a couple months ago, and part of it I wanted to integrate myself with them as well, so that they can humanize me a little bit, as opposed to just like seeing me as one of the speakers. So I was like, I'll be hanging around in the gym. If you want to come work out with me, come work out with me, and we can just have some fun. I went and done. Can you remember those core exercises
Yeah,
we did that you
with the
done?
plates. Oh, those are brutal.
Yeah,
The partner ones,
yeah.
yeah.
So I did that with them, and like I did it as well. And one guy comes up to me and was like, what's the scientific reason behind that? I was like, it's fucking hard. That
Yeah,
was it. He's like, so there's no reason. I'm like, no, it's just hard and it's fun, and I just like
yeah,
doing it.
and that's okay because we're not training for the Olympics. We're not counting every single calorie that goes into our mouth. We're not stepping on a bodybuilding stage anytime soon. Uh,
I'm definitely not.
yeah, I'm my body fat percentage is a little too high for that, and I don't quite frankly don't care enough to do that. But
We like
oh,
to
we
eat,
like to
Chu. We
eat,
like to eat.
man. Let me tell you, we like to eat. We can get
That's
down.
that's one thing I miss. I miss being out there with you, because like it was pretty much like once or twice every week we'd go out and just fucking
Just find a restaurant
eat.
and just go chow. Yeah, man. Yeah, those are good times. I miss it. I miss it. But yeah, but going back to what we were talking about, for for most people, especially in general population, again, this is me talking about general population, and this is, um, I
Mhm.
guess some of these things can be extrapolated to an athletic population, but with general population,
Athletic population has to be a little bit
Ye
more
yeah,
precise in
you have to
what
be more
gets
specific,
done.
you have to be a lot more strategic with what you give them. You have to be a lot more efficient with your resource management in terms of res in terms of managing stress, in terms of managing workload, and those things, and strategic in where you place and what buckets you fill in that sense. Yeah. Not
100%.
saying you don't do that with general population, just different context, different context.
Like, and that's I think that's a good thing to understand as well. Is like you they are different, and there's different ways of, again, there's a 101 ways to skin a cat, but you also need to be wary of who you have in front of you and how you deal with that situation. I think that's essentially what it
Yeah.
comes down to.
Ultimately, I think that sometimes as coaches, again, we have our own coaching egos. We do all the continuing education, and we do all the reading up on research, and we talk to other coaches, and we see cool things on Instagram, and we feel like we have to use all of these things and apply it to James, our client James, that's walking in at 8 a.m. this morning, when he really just wants to get in better shape, and we feel like we have to utilize all of these fancy things, or um, I feel like I have to show you what I know. But at the end of the day, how are we serving James? How is he leaving our session better than he was when he walked in? Yeah,
Yeah,
how in 2 or 3 months time is is he getting to where he wants to be? And that applies for our athletes as well. Who is in front of us? Who do we need to serve? Like, how do we apply the things that we do know? All of the things that we do know, it's great. And we need to keep learning, and we need to keep doing those things, keep educating ourselves. Um, but then taking that information and then applying it to the context that is in front of us, that is a human being in front of us. And then how do we take these things and, um, adjust them accordingly so that we can provide the most value possible.
100%. I do want to ask, when are you bringing back the intellectual meathead shit?
my yeah, my Instagram has been very dry. 2024. I will not lie. That's just a product of me really trying to get into the trenches and be a coach first, rather than I'm not the the intellectual meathead series was very much a practice of me just trying to put myself out there and try and do that. I got real busy, and that kind of fell off. But
I'll say again, like I love that series because you took real real situations that we see in the field and you kind of make like bit of like a lighthearted make fun of it, and like but you go into detail enough to like help people
yeah,
with it.
yeah, I think I do definitely want to bring that back. I think I do want to, in the next half of this year, focus on a lot more on production rather than consumption. I feel like in the past year, with all the continuing education, reading, and stuff like that, um, I've been doing a lot of consuming, but not a lot of producing. And so, uh, definitely, I'm gonna shameless plug my Instagram, just beat you, or beat you performance. I'm not sure where I'm going to start posting stuff again, but either one of those two accounts on my Instagram, I'm gonna try to start putting things back out there, but maybe do it in a way that I can I can sustain, and I can be more consistent with, hopefully. I have been thinking a lot more about who I want to speak to, like what do I
Mm.
want to represent, and what are my core values that I want to get across. And I think the intellectual meathead series was cool, and it was good. I wasn't completely proud of it, uh, and I didn't really have a framework or a foundation. So then I think, having thought about it some more, that yeah, that foundation piece is very important in terms of like knowing the audience, knowing who I am as a person, knowing the values and what I want to get across. Like, what is my mission with this, with with putting out content? And for me, intellectual meathead, my mission was to just put things out, just to practice the muscle of editing, of and trying it out, of speaking in front of a camera and trying to make coherent sentences. Which for me, I don't know if y'all been listening for this long, like, God bless you, but it is hard for me sometimes to not just talk and ramble. And so trying to be concise with what I want to say and getting my ideas across, it's still very much something I'm trying to work on. So
Like we were talking about this before the podcast, and it's like, we were talking about this book that I recommended, Show Your Work, and the thing that, and I find this as well, like when I'm trying to create content, not like the podcast, this is different because like I see this as just speaking to the coach, and I forget that the camera's there. Like when I'm creating content, I feel like I get so infatuated with the fact that I have to make it as sound as possible from a research end of things, from a technical side of things, that I start to lose the spark in wanting to do it, because like I see it as a huge list of things I need to do as opposed to just having fun with it. Like, and I think that's what this book really helped me with, was that content creation, it's okay to just be a novice and just get stuff out there, just like brain dump all your ideas. As easy as it'll sound to say, it's a lot harder to do, and it's just that let go of that. Fuck, I'm a S&C coach. I've been doing this since I was fine 14, whatever. So I know better. So I can't just put shit out there that I think is cool. Like, it needs to be sound for everyone else, but I start to lose enjoyment in doing it.
I'm right there with you. And I think at the end of the day, when you are putting it out, on my Instagram feed, I don't ever look at one person's post and like critique, oh man, no, this angle or oh what he said, this idea. Like for most posts, I don't even have time to really unless if it really catches my attention. I don't really have time to really invest in watching um like a full reel or yeah, when I'm just scrolling down Instagram, even with the Instagram profiles that I do enjoy content from, like sometimes I'll listen to like the first 5 seconds. If it's not something I'm interested in, I won't even indulge. And so I think understanding that for most people, and that's the reality thing. Short form, like most people don't care all that much. So yeah, put
Mhm.
yourself out there. Build like just don't be afraid of um to
The
yeah to
posting.
start posting. Not everything has to be perfect because perfect isn't sustainable. And I think looking back upon my intellectual meathead series, I got into that same like mindset cycle too of is this good enough, am I really happy with all of this,
Mhm.
is this actually providing value? And those were the things that I was getting very wrapped up about, and it was making it really hard for me to come out with more content or to want to keep doing it like you were saying.
Mhm.
But I think that's where having the foundation of also, understanding like who's my target audience, who am I as a person, the values I want to get across, the ideas I want to get across, my mission with doing this, that foundation, that purpose, then allows you to keep going and to scale. And then also having a solid like
Mhm.
framework or system around it. I didn't have a system. It was just more like, okay, I'm going to come up with TikTok ideas, and then I'm going to write them out, and then on this day, and then I'm going to film on this day, and then I'm going to edit on this day. Then actually having a recipe for what do
Mhm.
my videos look like edit like if you have those systems built in place, it makes it much easier. But I will say I feel like some of those things you don't learn until you start doing. So I think there's value in just doing it too.
And like, this conversation essentially came out because we've tried to be a little bit more active with things. And for me, I hate social media posting. Like, it just takes so much time where I could be doing something else. But it's also important because we also have to show value in what we're doing. Like, we we spend so much time in education and learning different things that everyone's perspective is going to be different as well. So like, me and you can take the same course, but our takeaways
Hmm.
might be different. So it's also understanding that side of content creation as well, as like, this post might not hit with everyone and people will interpret it differently, but it's just that switch again that you just have to just send it and be happy with what you've put, because to you it was good.
Yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, at the end of the day, no one else cares but you. No one's that involved in your
Yes.
business.
Although, I've had some comments on my videos lately, and I was just like, oh,
I mean,
uh,
th- but that's to be expected, and because you're putting it out to the world, and there's going to be trolls or mean comments and things like that. Um, it's obviously easier said than done to not let it affect you because it does, and we're all
oh,
people.
I want to go. I want to go straight to the mama jokes, but
You want to go straight to the mom's house? Just be like, "Hey, who you raised this kid? Like, what is what did you teach him growing up? You gotta teach him some manners.
But I've tried to be a little bit more professional recently, and just be like, "Thank you for the feedback. I'll take it on board."
But think about also how the you know who are they to tell you like how
What
yeah
I'm doing
what
is
you're
wrong.
doing is
Yeah.
wrong, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, you can have discourse and stuff like that, but
Mm. But that's okay. So I like conversation builders because that's effective, right? So if I've put out a bit of content that people either agree or disagree with, but they're able to articulate themselves in a way that brings on a conversation as opposed to just shitting on someone, I would much rather that than people just comment to comment. Like I love explaining my side of things and how that view was
yeah,
shaped, as opposed to I don't like this because I don't like this.
yeah.
You can't really go much further than that.
I think about it this way too. Like that person that left the comment, they probably left a comment and they just kept scrolling, found another post. They probably put another comment that they didn't like about that, and then they just kept scrolling. They don't care.
Mhm.
They don't care about that much. You shouldn't care too much either. I mean, it's hard. It's obvious. Again, it's easier said than done. But
Although I've recently started writing blog posts. Now that I'm kind of fucking concerned for, because some of them I've like spent so
hmm
long on that I'm just like I'm really happy with what I put out, but it's like how will people interpret this? And because it's a lot of writing, are people engaged? Does it make sense to them as well? So like I'm still trying to figure that one out.
yeah, yeah. The writing is. I wish I paid more attention in like fifth grade. Uh, I'm I'm working on a project. It's my own personal project. Call it my self knowledge paper. Basically, it's just a document
Mm,
where I headline a bunch of different topics under physiology, talking about you know sliding filament theory or the different energy systems. Talking about strength and conditioning under that, programming under that, hypertrophy, like all of these subheadings, and then just trying to write out and consolidate all that I know about all of these topics, and trying to put my thoughts and my ideas and my knowledge onto just one document that I can always reference off of. And so that's something I've been working on. One, to work the writing brain and the consolidation of ideas and getting across those ideas. But two, maybe have something that I can always reference back to in terms of where are my beliefs at, almost like a self audit, and then also maybe
yeah.
use that as a content generation idea in the future, or maybe
Mm,
like write a
yeah.
or that maybe turns into a book or something like that. So
Yeah. Like I always recommend people take different courses and learn new things from different people. Like I've been speaking with a social media manager recently, and she's fucking awesome. But she's really been like, I think, a good investment, because she also gives me perspective on like what people go on these different sites for. Like I know I go on as a distraction. Like if I've got a couple hours to kill that I just want to switch off, I'll just go on social media and just scroll, because like that turns my brain off for a couple minutes. But there's actually some theory behind what people consume and how they consume it, and that I think that's been very beneficial for me to learn as
yeah,
well.
yeah. I mean, don't upload your podcasts on Instagram because it's probably not going to. You're not uploading your full length podcast on Instagram because no one's watching it. You're not uploading your full length
Mhm.
podcast on TikTok because that's the wrong place. People don't go there for their podcasts. So yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good point too.
Have some things that, again, like the social media side of things is like a hard one, because like I would just much rather just work on different projects than be posting. But like I mentioned before, like social media is a good thing to also connect. Like I love connections and building these connections. So like that's another big aspect that I do. And like I make sure to like recently I switched from posting on like my PA Chalk Up Instagram to just posting on my personal Instagram, because I want people to have a face behind everything that I'm doing. So, and I've noticed a lot more engagement with that too. Is like people like to see a person behind what content they're
Put
consuming.
a face to the name. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a social media expert, so I can't I can't offer any advice there. But
Bring back intellectual meathead shit.
well, we're gonna try to put out some more value soon. Um, I want to, I definitely want again, like I want to be a, I want to produce, and I want to take a lot of the concepts and ideas that I do have in my head, and because I feel like I there's definitely value here that I can provide, and ultimately that's what
100%.
I'm.
Like I was always upfront with you. Like I loved it because it was like it was raw and it was you. Like everything that you posted, I felt that like that's be true in a
Thank
video.
you. Yeah, I definitely don't think I will. Well, that's another thing too. Of the reason why I did that was because I wanted it to be. I wanted to practice and figure out, I guess, my style is, or how when I take these concept or these complex ideas, when and how I make it digestible for myself is just by telling stories or making it fun or
Mhm.
funny, and even with my clients some of the cues that I give my clients are ridiculous because I tell myself like these stories, or I'll come up with it on the fly. Like for example, like to get hip tuck, just to get your tailbone to or your pelvis to nutate underneath
Mhm.
you to go into more of a posterior tilt. I tell my clients like belt buckle to your belly button, or
Mm.
this one's a little bit more vulgar, but like it's definitely not professional. But I straight up I told the guy I was like, think about putting your pee pee into your belly button, and then he is like, oh, and
Yeah.
as a guy you're like, oh okay, and I'm like, dude, there you go, hip tuck, or the belt buckle one's not original to me, but there are some that um
I fully support this, and I think your ability to articulate your cues is one of the biggest skills you need to have as an S&C coach. Like for me, is like the one that we'll see all the time is like
mhm,
squatting. Squat mechanics can be very different,
mhm,
right? But everyone knows how to sit on a toilet and go shit,
yeah,
right? So for me, when I can see someone's like squat mechanics is a little bit weird, and they're like either they're too upright or they're whatever. I just say, just pretend you're sitting on the
mhm.
toilet, then stand back up. And like, that's a squat. That is a squat.
One of my favorites is to get this like lat engagement, um, or
Mm,
when people are doing RDLs and stuff like that, uh, for them to just to keep the implement a little closer to their body, or to keep their armpits packed, their lats packed. Or I would ask them, it's like, what's your favorite? Who's your favorite music artist or band? And I'm like, quick, quick, quick! You gotta give it to me fast. And they say, like, say, I don't know, Taylor Swift. I'm like, okay, front row seat tickets, Taylor Swift, under both armpits. Don't let them fall out. Like you get to meet her after too.
mm.
And then, oh my God, they are, they automatically crunch,
Clench.
clench their armpits. They understand. I'm like, oh, perfect. You're packing your lat, right? Um, so sometimes, uh, I often hear no, not that it's wrong. Um, like sometimes I'll walk by other trainers, and I'll hear more internal cues of like,
Mm,
oh, like okay, now squeeze your glute. Now make sure your hips are posteriorly tilted, and then you're gonna press up, and you're gonna feel that serratus. And when I hear that, I oftentimes think, like, how long have you been working with your client? Do they know where their serratus is? Do they know how to disassociate their
mm,
shoulder blade off of their rib cage? Do they know what a posterior tilt is? Do they know what their squeezing their glutes feels like? Where their hamstrings are? And so, or like what tightening your core is. Oh, the one I hear is keep your core tight, right? Core tight, core tight. I say it too.
mhm,
I'm at a fault, but I teach my clients what I mean when I say core tight. I teach my clients when I say core tight, when you breathe, right? You're breathing into a Pepsi can, you're filling up the pressure, right? And then you're hunkering down like someone's about to punch you. Like, or like we go through drills to so that they understand what core tight means. And in different contexts.
Mhm.
Okay, core tight in a squat means like I need to get my pelvis posteriorly tilted. I need to get my hip tuck. From there, I need to breathe into the bottom of my pelvis. And then I need to keep that belly button from pushing out. I want to keep that belly button pressed up
Mhm.
against like the back of my spine. And then I need to breathe into that position. And then from there, hold and hunker down. And that's what core tight means when Brandon says core tight when I'm doing a squat. So I think being very specific, again, it comes down to the communication and the setting expectations piece.
Mhm.
That is huge. It's not enough to just say get your core tight, because what the fuck does that mean? If I've never lifted a weight before,
Right.
what does that mean? So you need to provide context to the cues in which you're giving.
I think the communication aspect of it is the most important thing. Like your cues are as effective as they are understood.
Hmm.
So like if you're given the fucking serratus cue, cool. Yeah, what does that mean?
That's what I mean. It again. I mean, it goes back to the old adage of a good program coached bad is not a good program. You'd rather
It's
have a
no
bad
problem.
program that's
Yep.
coached well. That because sometimes it's not about the X's and O's. It's about how you can convey an idea and get the most out of that person that's in front of you. And then yeah, it goes back to again the individualization, the soft skills. A lot of that, a lot of that goes a
100%.
lot further than the X's and O's.
We have moved on with some things since our first podcast. So, question now that I
Hmm.
ask a lot: what's your PR song?
PR song right now currently. Oh man, I'm in a weird spot because I wouldn't say I have a PR song right now. I'm like in the middle of finding a PR song. But I will say
Mm,
recently in the past like 2 weeks, I've been when I really need a push, or like when I really need to get my mood up in the gym, I've been listening to a lot of island style, so like music, yeah,
Aloha Friday.
music that um the video of me squatting in my story that I posted maybe like 3 or 4 days ago. It's not
Mm,
on my Instagram anymore, but that was an open set, and uh, on my story I put like an island style video, just things that remind me of Guam, back home. I don't know, maybe I'm a little
mhm.
homesick. I've been a little bit more homesick recently, maybe because the weather's hotter and it reminds me of home. But I've been listening to a lot more island style, and so I would say j bug j bug is always my go-to. so
Class. Class.
so so I would say yeah.
To be fair, off the back of that, I've came across some other artists that are just fucking
Yeah,
insane.
you're gonna have to put me on.
I will. I'll send you them
Yeah, yeah.
afterwards. But like those Aloha Fridays were like that was
Ah,
my
that
favorite day because we were just everyone would just vibe out and just like the vibe was
That's what I
different in the
mean.
weight room.
And so I think that too has contributed to why the past 2 weeks uh, I was thinking about Aloha Friday, and then I was playing some island style while I was lifting, and I was like, yeah, yeah, I wanna get back to this. This brings me back. This makes
Happy.
me happy. This brings me back. But that song in my story that I posted about like the Aloha Friday, or only real ones remember or know what Aloha
Mhm.
Friday is, and that yeah, I would say that song is my current PR song. I forgot which song.
Uh, what's your conditioning playlist look
Conditioning?
like? Ooh,
That's if I do
yes, sir.
conditioning. Yeah, I let's see.
Don't do conditioning.
I I do conditioning a lot. Recently, it's been a lot of more long duration, just on a bike.
Mm,
Nothing set in interval. Maybe some like fartlek style, where
mm.
what I'll do is rather, yeah,
Sprint, jog, walk.
rather than having set times, I'll throw on a show, or yeah, also rather than listening to music, I'll
Mm.
watch a show, and every time it's like commercial break, that's when I'll crank it up. for like the duration of a commercial.
Although that's something that's wild. Commercials in the States take the fucking piss. I watched the baseball game on the TV. The amount of commercials that there was is
In the
disgusting.
US compared to the UK? Like, there's much more
Yes.
in the US?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Dang. We're getting you're
100%.
telling me we're getting snubbed of TV time. Oh, I
Yes.
don't even
Very
watch
much so.
I only watch streaming services now, so I can't even tell you
So do I.
like what watching normal cable television is like.
What's one piece of advice that you would give a new strength and conditioning coach or coach coming into this industry?
Ah,
And I know I asked you
yeah.
this one, but let's see if it
Let's see if it
changes.
changes. I want the inner side of me wants to give a different answer. I don't remember what my answer was a year ago, but I'd say the best advice that I can give, just never, like, always don't be afraid to make opportunities for yourself. Of You don't have to wait for someone to give you the permission to reach out, or you don't have to wait till you know it all to to feel, or to feel like you belong as a
Mm,
coach. It's like, do you have influence over people? Do you have the opportunity to influence over people? Can you volunteer? Can you get your feet wet? I think I might have said something along the same lines as this a year ago. But yeah, just look for opportunities to get better, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Be bold in your decision making, in the sense of, listen to your gut. If you're wrong, you're wrong. Own it and move on, because we're not going to be perfect, and it's it's also not worth wasting your time waiting for the perfect opportune time for you to do something. If you want to do it, go do it. If you want an opportunity, if you want to make it to the NBA, if you want to um you know build a certain career for yourself, like, don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to
mm,
reach out, and yeah, put yourself out there. Be bold.
I agree. I agree. I think you went more of the educational route last time.
I did. That doesn't sound like me.
I think so.
Maybe, yeah. But yeah, like always looking for opportunities to learn, grow, and then you don't get those opportunities by sitting on your hands, right? And you don't have to.
Shy boys
Yeah,
don't get
shy
sweets.
boys don't get sweets. You don't have to. You don't have to be of a certain caliber to be in the same rooms as other people. Um, just get your foot in the door, and step in with
100%.
humility, knowing that you don't know it all, and that's okay, and that you're gonna make mistakes, and that's okay. But you're gonna try your best, and you're just gonna keep going.
Agreed.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much, Drew, for coming in for the 1 year anniversary of
My
this
brother.
podcast. Again, I wouldn't want to do it with
Yep, my
anyone
brother.
else.
It's been a pleasure, man. Thank you for having me back on. It's an honor knowing you. It's an honor to be able to come back on a year after the conception of this podcast. And dude, kudos to you for keeping it alive, keeping it going. I love it, and I'm excited to see where it goes, man.
Thank you. I will be give back that humility and say that you're one of the people that believed in this, and from an earlier on standpoint as well. I think we went back and forward quite a lot on some of my feelings towards it and how I was feeling being out here as much as I am. So I do appreciate you as well for all the time you spent talking my way through this and helping me out in it.
Yeah. Well, I don't. If I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have hopped on, or I
Appreciate you. Peace.